So if you want to start playing volleyball, you gotta know what each position does and which one is best for you. So let's talk about the 5 positions in indoor volleyball and the 2 positions in outdoor volleyball. I'll tell you everything that each position does, and if that position is a good fit for you. Let's get started. Let's begin with beach volleyball since there's only 2 positions. Deciding which position you play is very simple. If you are taller than your teammate, then you play blocker, and if you are shorter than your teammate, then you play defender. On offense, the 2 positions do the exact same things. Both are expected to receive, set, and spike. The big change between the 2 is on defense. When defending, a blocker will stand up against the net and he will jump in front of the opposing team's attacker. A beach volleyball court is an enormous amount of area for a defender to cover, so the job of the blocker is to deny anywhere between a quarter and a third of the court, so that the defender has less space to worry about. If the blocker covers the outside, then the defender covers the inside, and vice versa. The defender's job is to receive any ball that gets hit past the block, whether it's over or around it. And also defenders have to be good at attacking, since their initial receive means that the blocker will be doing most of the setting, and then the defender will be doing most of the spiking. Okay, so now let's switch over to indoor volleyball and talk about the 5 positions there. So to get us started, the orchestrator of all offensive plays in indoor volleyball is the setter. His job is to always get that second touch in the 3-touch system, and that second touch most times will be an overhead pass to any other attacker on the court. Setter is by far the best position to have as your captain, since the setter is so involved in every single play, and it's part of the setter's job to know how every single player on the court plays so that they can set them up in the best ways possible. It can be very overwhelming to play setter because every single player likes to hit the ball differently, and also every setter likes to set the ball differently. Besides just being good at setting to be a setter, there's 2 other things that people don't normally realize setters also have to be really good at. The first is blocking. Since setters play on the right side of the court, when they are on the front line, more times than not, they'll be lined up against the enemy team's ace on the outside hitter position. The ace is also known as the biggest offensive threat and the highest point scorer. If the setter can't block the best offensive player, then that'll just leave the ace completely wide open for any kind of hit. The next skill is serving. In most defensive setups, the setter is the first server for a team. And if you're not serving first and you're receiving the serve, then the setter is oftentimes positioned in a way so that he will be the first server once you rotate. And a good serve doesn't have to be hard or powerful or even score a point. A good serve just has to get the team inspired for the play. Setting by itself is a very easy skill to learn. However, setting consistently and setting how your players like to hit the ball is where it gets much harder for newer players.
Right. My bad.
Outside hitters are special because there's 2 of them on the court instead of 1 like every other position. They play on the left side of the court, which is the farthest from the setter, so it's called outside. When you hear a name such as outside hitter, you immediately assume that their only job is hitting the ball, much like how you assume a setter's job is only setting the ball. While for setters, setting the ball is about 90% of what you'll do on the court. For outside hitters, hitting is not at all a majority of what you do. An outside hitter is the best all-around position. Outside hitters do every job except for setting on the court. When receiving a serve, typically both outside hitters are in the back court to receive. When blocking, since outside hitters are usually one of the highest jumpers on the team, they're also expected to be good at that. And their serving strength usually matches perfectly with their hitting strength. Most people when starting to play volleyball want to be an outside hitter. I don't blame them because hitting the ball is one of the most fun parts of volleyball, but it's very important to note that outside hitters are expected to do almost every single job in volleyball, except for setting. Next position is pretty similar to outside hitter, but just a little bit different. Right outsides have the exact same jobs as outside hitters, except they hit from the right side of the court as opposed to the left side. It's completely dependent on the team or the coach to decide if the right outside for the team is going to be doing as much receiving as the outside hitters usually do. But besides just simply receiving, right outsides do the exact same jobs. This position is heavily favored by left-handed players since they have an easier job getting better hits when they swing with their chest facing towards the court instead of away from it. And it's also favored by players who just find that they like hitting the ball from the right side of the court more than the left side. These three hitting positions are phenomenal for any player who's looking to be doing some spiking and scoring points for their team. They're in charge of hitting the ball hard and fast. They get to do blocking, receiving, serving. If you think you are a good all-around player, or that you could eventually be a good all-around player, then the hitting positions are right for you. Next is the middle blocker, which is often just referred to as the middle. They are called middle blockers because they are the most dominant blocking force on the team. You'll see when one team is getting ready to spike that the other team usually leaves the entire middle of the court wide open. This isn't a mistake whatsoever. It is the middle blocker's job to block the space that the ball would have to pass through to get to that middle area of the court. Although some blocks may score points when the ball is hit into the hands, most blocks are just used to deny that space so that defenders have less area to cover. Good middle blockers are terrifying because they will stop almost any ball that tries to get over the net. But that's just the defense side that I've mentioned. On offense, middle blockers are responsible for hitting quick attacks. Rather than hitting the ball as hard as they can like the hitting positions do, middle blockers focus on making their attacks as fast as possible. With their extra height, they can spike the volleyball almost straight down into the ground before the enemy team even has a chance to react to it if they're fast enough. And your serves don't generally have to be that good as a middle blocker. Middle blocker is a dream come true if you're tall, love blocking, love hitting, and hate receiving. The last position is the defensive specialist, the libero. This guardian of the backcourt is subbed in every single time a middle blocker makes it to the backcourt. Being taller actually makes it a lot harder to receive the ball. The two reasons being that it takes longer to get low to the ground, and the other that you have slightly less control of your longer limbs. This is why liberos are usually the shortest players on the court, but their short size is helpful because it makes them faster. Liberos are famous for putting their entire body on the line to get a ball off the ground no matter how difficult it may be. They don't have to serve or spike, so they spend all of their time focusing on how to get better at receiving. And the difference between a good libero and a fantastic libero is learning how to set from the backcourt. In really high levels of play, when a setter gets the first touch and can no longer set the ball, they'll pass the ball to the libero for them to set a really high and far ball to one of the hitters on the outside areas. Libero's a good fit for you if you think every ball that comes your way is passable. It doesn't matter how far away it is or how fast it's coming towards you. You will get that ball up no matter what. It's also just really fun diving around the court a lot. Okay, so to wrap all these indoor positions up, the outside and right side hitters are huge offensive threats with their powerful spikes, and they also contribute a ton on defense by filling in a bunch of gaps with their passing. Middle blockers and liberos are huge defensive threats who play on separate halves of the court. While middle blockers dominate in blocking, liberos dominate in receiving the balls that get past those blocks. Both also have their fair share of offensive skills that are really helpful for the team, and the setter is there to control the flow of their team. They dictate how the offense is going to run purely based off of how they set the ball, and they are generally the greatest at communicating with their team and getting everybody on the same page with what everybody is doing. On offense, they should be consistent at setting, but it's important to never forget that defensive aspect of being the setter, because blocking is always important, especially against those really strong outside hitters that the setters are going to be matched up against. If you've never played volleyball, then hopefully talking about all of these positions and what they do has inspired you to think about what you would play if you were ever in a game of volleyball. Whether it's beach or indoor, there's always a position for everyone. If you did like the video and do want to try out volleyball sometime soon, make sure to subscribe so you can watch my later videos when I'm going to be making guides on how to do specific things in volleyball. As always, thank you a ton for watching, and I'll see ya!